If you're over 40 experiencing brain fog, memory lapses, you're forgetting people's names, if you struggle finding words mid-sentence that just seems to get worse and worse, this video could change everything for you. My name's Tyler, I'm the Brain Body Coach, and after conducting 50 plus brain health assessments, after going through protocol after protocol and reiterating my own to see what works best to heal your brain, your cognitive health, and your body, I have came to many conclusions. Often, they all go unrecognized in the typical healthcare system today, and you might have seen that in your own journey. And so today I'm going to be talking about a lot of times what gets missed and what you can do to mitigate the issues with your cognitive health. Now, disclaimer up front, I'm not a doctor. I am a coach. I've done a ton of research, so I do know a lot of what I'm talking about, but I'm not here to diagnose anybody. I am not here to say that I can heal you better than a doctor can. I am here to give you information that you may not otherwise have gotten already. You should always consult with your healthcare provider or your neurologist with any concerns that you have. Now, brain health issues you always hear about, in people's 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of the time, when it comes to cognitive decline like Alzheimer's and dementia. So why am I talking about in your 40s? Well, in your 40s, it's a critical time. In your 30s even, it can go all the way back that far because brain changes take year after year after year to develop. So why are we looking at brain symptoms and side effects of what you've been doing after 30 years of doing those things? We want to mitigate the effect on your brain now so that there aren't issues 20 to 30 years down the road. And that's why the 40 timeframe is so key. And sometimes it can go even earlier. Like my mom was diagnosed with dementia at only 57. So we can look back, 20 years, 30 years, all the way to the 30s. And if you want to see real brain changes 15 years from now, you need to start today. And that's kind of the problem with the medical system, right? And why I want to bring this up is because a lot of times you run into issues and we treat the symptoms, but we don't treat the root causes. So the root causes never get fixed. We try to treat the symptoms. Sometimes that treatment can make things even worse. And then 10 years down the road, we never fix what the real issue was. And then you start noticing even worse cognitive decline. And we don't want that to happen. And that's why I'm talking about it here today. That's why if you're in your 40s and 50s, I want you to start making changes right away. Even if you're in your 60s and 70s, or you are experiencing cognitive decline and it is diagnosed, you can make the same changes if you recognize what the root cause is. So 5 early warning signs that I saw in my mom and that I see in a lot of my clients. My mom's biggest one was word finding struggles. She had severe aphasia, and that was kind of the first thing we noticed whenever she started developing this decline. It kept getting worse and worse, finding really simple words like trying to say, like, I went to the store over there. She couldn't think of the word Walmart, stuff like that. But then it started becoming almost every other sentence this was happening. And that is when we started to get worried. But we don't want to get that far down the road. If you're noticing that you're struggling to find words and it feels like it's too much, that is the time to act. Now, all of us forget words every now and then. That is a normal part of life. So if you're noticing it just happening once or twice a week, that is nothing to be concerned about. But if it's happening every day and you're noticing some issues pretty consistently, then you might want to start considering making some changes. Sign number 2, energy pattern changes. So midday crashes, waking up super tired. These aren't normal occurrences. This is a sign that you may have metabolic dysfunction, glucose dysregulation that needs to be addressed. My clients, if they have energy crashes in the middle of the day, we are working on that. We are getting that energy back. We're regulating their blood sugar so that it doesn't dip in the late afternoon, so that their blood flow is high late afternoon, so that they're having that energy throughout the day, because we really only want you to be tired later towards nighttime, because that is a normal occurrence throughout the day. And anybody who says like, it's normal to, have those energy crashes and be tired are just dead wrong. We do not want to have those energy crashes, and that can be signs and signals that your body's sending you that eventually downstream lead to cognitive issues because your brain utilizes glucose. So if you have that metabolic dysregulation, that is going to cause a problem. Struggling with tasks that used to be super easy for you. And I'm not talking about, running a 5K, because that is going to get harder, especially if you're not training for it. I just mean day-to-day tasks like at work. If you're noticing that work tasks are becoming increasingly difficult, this could be a sign that your motor function might be off. This could be a sign that your processing function might be off. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have cognitive decline right now. It just means that if you don't fix the issue, it's not going to get better, right? Because you're not doing anything to fix the issue. You're not doing anything to figure out why is this task so much more difficult than it used to be. And anybody who says, it's just aging, everything gets harder, I also think that they're dead wrong. You can control your health outcomes, and aging has very little to do with it if you're doing the right things. Now, obviously, aging does have something to do with it, but you can mitigate the response that you have to aging. Sleep disruptions. This is a huge one. And this one isn't necessarily a symptom of the cognitive decline, more so a cause of the cognitive decline. While you're sleeping, your brain detoxifies, your body recovers, your cells regenerate. If you're not getting quality sleep, that can lead to a lot of issues down the road outside of your brain function, outside of your cognitive function. If you're trying to lose fat, for example, sleep is also a super large contributor to not being able to lose fat if you're not sleeping enough. So if you're waking up at 2 to 3 a.m. feeling wired and not tired, if you have to wake up multiple times to use the bathroom, those are going to be issues. We want to mitigate those. If you have trouble falling asleep because your mind just is racing, we want to understand what is causing that to get to the bottom of it, to fix it, because sleep dysregulation is going to be really, really brutal on you down the road, especially for your brain. Now, number 5, stress response changes. If you're a woman in perimenopause and menopause, this is going to happen to you regardless while you're going through these hormonal changes, which again, you can mitigate those things. It isn't an inevitable response to your system to have these issues as you're going through those hormone changes. And if you're worried about your brain health, that is especially a vital time to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Stress response changes just means like if you have mood swings, if you feel an increasing level of anxiety that you didn't typically have. This is just changes in your brain from those hormonal changes, if you're a woman, and that cause issues down the road. We want to make sure that those are fixed because those can be signals that your brain just isn't functioning optimally. And if your brain's not functioning optimally because your hormones aren't optimal, it's going to be a vicious cycle of going back and forth, kind of fighting between energy systems in your brain versus your hormones, brain not producing enough hormones that you need to regulate your system or too much. And it's going to be this kind of like downstream effect that causes all kinds of issues post menopause. And that's why women are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop neurological conditions. And why do all of these get so often missed or just written off? I've already mentioned a couple of reasons. One, people just say, it's normal aging. This is just what happens as you age. Your hormones start changing. You get more tired. Life kind of takes its toll. But that's arguably BS. You should not listen to that advice. It is just an excuse to not do the right things. It's just an excuse to, in my opinion, either be lazy or put the blame on something else. It is not just aging. It has a factor, obviously, but we can do the right things and get to the root causes of things and still see a ton of success, even in your 60s and 70s and 80s. You could be the healthiest person on your block at 85 compared to 60. It's up to the decisions you actually decide to make now. The healthcare system being the second issue that gets overlooked, because you've probably gone into an appointment, it's been 15 minutes, they get, basic information from you, and they send you home with a prescription. The system is broken, and I think the majority of people know that. And I don't blame doctors because there's so many good doctors out there, but what the system does is it puts handcuffs on them. They're not able to take the time to really get to the subtle cognitive changes and the subtle issues in your body that are causing issues. You tell them you have sleep disruption. They say, well, let's try to go to bed a little bit earlier. Let's try to take melatonin. Is that going to address the root cause? Not necessarily, right? But that's only because they have a limited time to see each patient because they're taking care of so many people. And so you can decide like, well, I want to be the person who doesn't have to see the doctor all the time so that it limits the constraints on the healthcare system because we want to lighten the burden on the healthcare system. Or you can decide to not change anything and continue seeing the doctor in these 15-minute increments and not getting the results that you want to get. And that's up to you. The third reason why I believe a lot of these symptoms get missed is just lack of transparency around brain health. People for years have kind of looked at neurological conditions and diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia as almost taboo. Whenever my mom was diagnosed and I was looking up things about it, doctors talked about it, but people didn't really talk about their experience. And I can only assume it's because it was such an awful experience. People don't want to relive it. People don't want to talk about, what goes on in their household with a dementia or Alzheimer's patient because it is hard to live with. But I think we need to talk about it more and have these conversations because if we don't, then who is? Who is going to tell their neighbor who's 50 and has obvious neurological issues that, hey, I've seen this, you need to go see a doctor, or hey, this person is talking about, these exact symptoms you have, maybe you should go talk to them. Many times it's looked at as such a bad thing to put out in the world that you have cognitive issues, but if you don't, what's the other outcome? It just keeps getting worse. You aren't able to find the right fixes for the issues that you have. So let's stop demonizing brain health. Let's stop hiding it in the shadows, and let's talk about it. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a coach like myself, or whether you're someone who watched your own parent go through the same diagnosis that you are really praying and hoping that you do not go through yourself. So what you should actually do, because there is hope, even if you're noticing these cognitive issues. First of all, you need to look at how you can rewire your brain to grow again, for brain plasticity, to regrow your neurons and synapses. 25 of the 36 factors that go into cognitive decline are metabolic. So the big thing being food and exercise. What is your physiology like in terms of your nutrition? Are you getting enough fuel for your body and your brain? Are you getting enough micronutrients that your brain and your cells actually need to function really well? And then what are you doing day to day to move? Are you getting enough blood flow through your body to get enough blood flow to your brain cells? Are you doing enough to build muscle, to have those contractions, to be able to age really, really well instead of just degrade? And that is going to be the first step in figuring out what you need to do, is like get through those metabolic symptoms, understand where that stands, and you're going to be in a lot better shape once you go there. If you want to look at actual reversal of cognitive decline past those like initial steps for your metabolic health, you can look at protocols like the RECODE protocol, which has shown to reverse Alzheimer's, which has shown to reverse cognitive decline by getting to the root cause of every little detail you can possibly find in your blood work, in your lifestyle, or toxicity like mold in your home. It gets to the minuscule root cause that could be causing issues and turns the key to fix it. And that is going to be the biggest driver of change in your own brain health and your own cognitive decline. And so I've been talking about, the health system failing you in your own brain health journey, in your own health journey, but it is very important. You need to work within the health system with somebody who's a you need to work within the health system with somebody who knows how to optimize the brain, or with a doctor from the RECODE protocol. It needs to be integrated together. You can't just go fully holistic 100% of the time and expect to see perfect results. You need to have your blood work done. You need to get to the root cause of, detoxifying. You might need to use medications for that. It all depends on your own personal journey, and you can't write anything off. And ultimately, you know your body, you know your brain better than anyone. You know if there's issues. So if you know there's issues and you notice yourself either lying to yourself that, I don't really think there's a problem, or you're scared to make those changes, you need to come to the realization first for yourself. I need to make those changes for me. I need to make those changes for those that I love around me, because you do not want to inevitably fall into that cognitive decline that you saw your parents go through. You don't want to fall into this trap of just thinking there's nothing you can do. There is so many things you can do, and you have hope in this journey to a better brain and to better health. Now, I hope this is really helpful in understanding, the nuances behind figuring out if you want to or need to work on your brain health. Everybody should, no matter what stage of life they're in, and what you can actually, kind of start looking at in order to fix it. Let's have these conversations more often about the brain and what you can actually do to mitigate cognitive decline and to fight back against a system that doesn't really work. I want you to have the healthiest brain and body you can possibly have. That is why I'm the Brain Body Coach. Now, if you want my guide, 15 Daily Steps to a Healthy Brain, that's going to be in the description. Go ahead and grab that. And I have some goodies for you once you grab that guide that you're not going to expect. So go ahead and grab that guide. I'll launch a video every week, and go check out last week's video. And then I hope to see you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody.